Welcome to One on One, the podcast for tips, tricks, and techniques for the ON1 software community. And here's your host, Scott Kelby.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the first episode ever of One on One. This is our tips, tricks, and techniques podcast for the ON1 photography community. And I know a lot of you out there use ON1's plugins, and I do as well. And so what we're going to do on this show is we're going to share some of our favorite tips. We're going to have guests on. We're going to look at photographers. And we're going to start off today with I think it's a really cool tip. And it uses Effects 2025. So if you have the latest version, you'll be able to do this because they added this one little thing to 2025 that made all the difference in the world. And we're going to be able to do an effect that I think is going to be the most realistic one I've seen of its kind out there. So let's take a look. So take a look on screen. We're going to start in Photoshop, or you can start in Lightroom or wherever you want. Or if you already have your image open in Photo Raw, then you can just do it right there. We're starting in this case in Photoshop. I'm going to go into the filter menu, and I'm going to go under ON1, and we're going to choose right here, ON1 Effects 2025. And that's the one that they added this new little thing. I'll tell you what it is in just a second. But let's just go ahead and open this photo that I took up in Northern Ireland, all right? So it's called The Dark Hedges. And it was made famous by Game of Thrones, right? They had a scene that was taken there. And now if you go to Northern Ireland, to the North Hedges, expect to see a bunch of Instagrammers in the street, and you have to get rid of them. And you can either do it in post or do what I did, just take some pepper spray, clears them right out, just like that. Okay, now, so here's what we're going to do first. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a filter. I'm going to go over here to Add Filter. The filter we're going to add is Weather. So what I want to do is I want to add a fog effect. And yeah, adding a fog effect isn't hard. Adding a realistic fog effect that works the way fog really works, that's what's hard, and this little trick lets you do it so easily. All right, so let's add some fog. We're going to hit Weather, and then we're going to come down here, we're going to choose Foghorn. Right there, and it's going to, bring in some fog. Now, the unfortunate thing about the default setting, and there may be a way to change this, we'll have to ask our guest a little later, and that is that the fog appears the exact opposite of the way it does in real life. So fog starts lower and it dissipates as it goes up. But no problem, you can change the position. So down here there is like a little fog panel. Now if it's tucked away, just click on the word fog and it will pop out for you. You can control the amount of fog. I want it mighty foggy. But it's this position pop-up menu that makes the big difference. We're going to click right here and we're going to choose, there's all these different, and as you roll over them, it gives you a live, thing of how a live preview, I think is the word, not thing, a live preview. And we're going to go up here to, I'm going to do bottom third, actually, let's do bottom 2/3 slow. So what that means is it's going to start and do the bottom 2/3, and then it's going to slowly go to transparent. Now, right there alone, that's more like it, right? If I just choose that one, that's more like how fog would be, but it doesn't look very realistic. So here's what we're going to do to make it look more realistic. We're going to go over here to the masking panel, right? And in the masking panel, the thing that they added is called a depth mask right here. It's this little icon that shows a little arrow pointing down. It's right in there. That's it. That's the depth mask. What this does is something that's very interesting. It's going to look at the depth of the image, right? So just like on the set here, we have a depth. We have the front on my desk, and then we've got, my laptop, and then we've got these things on the side, and then we've got a wall behind that, right? There's depth. What it's going to do, it's going to create a mask built on the actual depth in the photo, and it's going to use AI to do it for you automatically. And what it's going to do is things that are the closest towards the viewer, right? Like the edge of my desk would be in black. And then it gets a little grayer and grayer and grayer as you go back. And what that allows you to do is to actually have fog work like fog works. When you're standing in front of the camera and you're there, right, it would be kind of clear in front of you, and then it gets a little foggier and foggier and foggier. And the fog doesn't go up to the sky. It kind of dissipates. Well, we can do all of that with this depth map. Now, let's just press the letter O and you can see the map. Well, first, I should actually click it instead of just talking about it. All right, there. Now, it's created the depth map. I'm going to press the letter O and you can see the map. So the part that would be in focus is in black, and then you have different shades of gray and white. Well, the problem is when you first do this, it's the exact opposite of what we want, right? It is, and guys, don't worry, I'm going to do this again. I'll do it twice. So I got to explain it the first time, and then we'll do it the second time. So it's the opposite of what we want, but right next to that, there's a little button here that we can choose to inverse it. So now, this would be the most in focus. This would be a little more, I don't mean in focus. This would be the most fog-free, and then a little more fog-free, and a little more, and then very foggy down there, right? So that's what we're going to do. Now, you see that mask by pressing the letter O. That shows the mask. I'm going to press the letter O again. And when you do that, now the fog's looking pretty realistic, but we're going to take it a step further. And so this is where I love this next part, all right? Is we can go in here to the levels control, and we can control exactly where the fog falls, right? So we already have this thing here. Let's look at before and after. So now we've got this nice foggy looking, scary hedges, but we can use these three sliders. So watch, if I use the middle slider, I can literally move it back to where there's less of it in focus right in front of me. If I use the highlight slider for levels, it says levels, by the way, just so you can see levels. That's what we're adjusting. And then you can move it. Look at that. I can move it like right there. But you see how the edge is kind of obvious? Luckily, look right above us. Feather. I can soften that edge so it makes a very smooth transition. So I can move the back forward. Look at that. I can like move it through the forest. These three sliders let you position it wherever you want inside the forest to just the right amount. You can also use a distance slider over here. If you go back to the fog panel, and you can also how high up it goes. So you can really dial in just the right amount of fog. I mean, I think this is so cool because I've tried fog effects for years just in Photoshop, and there's a lot of painting, and when you're done, you're kind of like, it's not bad. It's not bad. This is the most realistic one I've seen. Now, that was a lot of steps. So let me start over on a different image, and we'll just go through it. I won't explain every single little step as we go. I don't need to actually save that. Let's open up a different image. Here's one taken in Tuscany on an iPhone at dawn. Okay, so step one, of course, will be always go to Filter. We'll go to ON1, and we're going to open up Effects 2025. Now, I have the version of ON1 Photo Raw that includes plugins for Lightroom and in Photoshop, but it's part of the ON1, the mega collection. There's an official word for it, but I just call it the big old one. All right, when you click on this, it will look like it's launching Photo Raw, and it is because this plugin lives inside of Photo Raw, but you can just use the effects by itself. And you'll notice it opened up to the effects, right? So you can see right over here, it's on effects. So we're going to add filter, go to weather, and we're going to choose foghorn. Now I'm going to crank up the amount a bunch, and then we're going to make sure that the fog, actually here, the fog is, yes, exactly. I was thinking it right. It's wrong. Let's go to bottom. That's thirds and slow. I like the fast one is a quick movement from full to soft. This one is softer. There we go. And nice. All right, now, once we have that, I'm going to go create my depth map. I click right here where it says create depth mask. There we go. And you know I have to invert it. All right, and now the area that's closest to me is not as much, but I can remember, I can adjust this and move it a little further down. I can move it further down and of course add the feather. I go all the way to 100 so you don't see it so much. And then once you get it looking pretty good, I can go down here to distance and I can kind of move it down so it really looks like, look at that fog, let's go. And this is more like the fog would really look. It might go a little higher than I have it, maybe just a little, but not too much. And you can also control the transition, so how it goes out there. But yeah, you've got realistic looking fog, and so there is my tip for the day. All right, so I noticed we have a lot of people here tuning in from all over. So I just want to give a couple of quick shout outs because we got people from everywhere. Victor's here from the Netherlands. Welcome, glad to have you here. Kim's here from South Carolina. Let's see, Daryl's here from Fisher, Texas. Eileen's here from Argyll, Scotland. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Eileen. MX5's here from a bittery cold Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, congratulations, by the way, on winning the national championship. Scott's here from Idaho. Belinda's here. Belinda's just saying, howdy, Stu. Hey, Stu's here. Hey, Stu. Hello. Monica's here from British Columbia, Canada. Stuart says bonjour from Cave Creek, Arizona. And Lisa says, I'm a little late, but I'm happy to be here for this Love on One. Thank you, Lisa. And Rose is here from a sunny Christchurch, New Zealand. Glad to have you guys here. And we've got a lot more to go, but I like to start off the show with a cool tip. I hope you like that one. I think that's pretty cool. I like that. All right, let's moving on. I have Dan standing by. All right, so let me go here and make sure I can hear Dan. Dan, are you there? Dan Harlacher?
I am. Technically, I'm sitting by, but
oh,
here I
okay.
am.
Well, welcome, Dan. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So Dan is
thanks for having me.
with ON1, and you might have seen Dan in his YouTube videos and some of his training and stuff. And also, I asked Dan to come on because number one, we have a lot of Lightroom users that are Kelby One members, right? So we have all these Lightroom users, and they've come out with a product that if you are a portrait or wedding photographer, this thing is designed to just completely speed your workflow in this whole Lightroom ON1 environment. And it's brand new. I mean, what's it been out? 2 weeks, I think, maybe?
It's actually still in development right now. We're starting to talk about it publicly, but it isn't available until later in February.
Oh, okay. So we got to wait a month for this?
Well, you don't. I'll send you a secret copy. Everybody else, let's wait till it's ready.
All right, I've only seen like demo videos for it, so this is the first time that we're going to see it live. And by the way, if you have comments or questions, so please put them in. In fact, Paul has a comment. He says, "Thanks, Scott, for showing us the features of ON1. Very timely. I just purchased the ON1 tools this weekend while it was on sale. So timely." Hey, I did see the sale, by the way, when I was on your site. So there is a sale going. Is the sale still going on?
Sale's always going on. There's always something on sale. So definitely check out the website. You'll get a great deal.
All right.
Be sure to log in if you're a previous owner, too. You'll get the best upgrade pricing that way.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, what I did. I went and logged in. Okay, all right. Show me what you got, Dan. I'm anxious to see this because I've only watched those little snippets on your site.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we jump in there, first off, thanks for having me and having this podcast. I'm really excited about it and honored that you'd partner with us on this. I think most of the folks in the audience are familiar with our different plugins that you've shown them, things like effects or noise reduction or super resolution using resize. And as you mentioned, the big one, that's kind of where we put it all together, is Photo Raw Max. That gives you ON1 Photo Raw, plus all of the plugin access from Lightroom and Photoshop and all the other different tools that you might use. And Photo Raw has become a very popular alternative to kind of the Lightroom and Photoshop ecosystem, but it can also be used inside of those. Our goal is not to move people from one platform to another, is to bring our great technologies to you wherever you happen to live. And kind of in that same spirit, we've created a whole new brand, ON1 Pro, which is targeted towards professional photographers. They have slightly different needs, and their workflow is something they're not going to completely change. They're not going to move from one app to another. So what we really want to do is infuse those existing apps with our great higher end technology. And the first product that we're coming out with in this ON1 Pro line is Lightpanel. So let's jump over here and I'll just kind of give you the little scoop on it first. So if you're a professional portrait wedding photographer, this stuff is going to ring true to you. You're going to understand this. But if you're not in that space, let me kind of explain how it works then. So if you're a landscape photographer, you might go out and shoot maybe once a week if you're lucky, and you'll shoot, maybe a couple hundred photos. Well, if you're a wedding photographer or an event photographer, you're going to shoot 3 to 4 events in a week. And in each of those, you can shoot 3,000 to 5,000 photos. That volume is just astronomical compared to what an average hobbyist photographer shoots. But where it really gets you is the post-processing time is 2 to 3 times what you spend capturing. So let's say I go to a wedding and I spend 4 hours at that wedding. Well, now I'm stuck with 8 to 12 hours of post-production on that wedding. And it starts again next weekend and next weekend. And you wonder why it takes, several months to get your photos sometimes. The amount of work is crazy. So, after that weekend of shooting, I've got 40 to 60 hours of production. I don't know about you guys, but working 60 hours a week isn't all that fun on top of having to shoot those weddings. That doesn't give you any time to market, any time to spend time with your family. So, you're strapped to your computer till midnight every night you're not shooting a wedding. So we thought, well, gosh, can't we make this better for these folks? So that's really where we came up with Lightpanel. So Lightpanel does 2 things for you. And the big difference is it works with Lightroom. It's not a separate application that you have to use outside of Lightroom. It really works kind of hand in glove with it. It speeds up your culling. It does your editing for you automatically. And it can even track your jobs and orders. So the whole idea is to make it faster and more efficient to use Lightroom. So let me show you what it looks like here. So here we are. Here's Lightroom on the left, obviously. We know what that looks like. Here's a wedding job that I have up. And over here on the right, you see Lightpanel. It's just a skinny little strip. Think of it like a little add-on panel. That's why it's called Lightpanel. That sits right over here next to Lightroom. And notice at the top, there's 2 tabs right now. Keep in mind the version we're looking at is still a pre-release version, so it doesn't have necessarily all the bells and whistles that the final version is going to have, and it might not look exactly the same. So my usual caveats there. The culling tab is to help you cull your photos. That means find the best within a series of photos, get rid of the ones that are ugly, things like that. And then there's a develop tab to help you edit the photos. Let's start off here in the culling tab. One of the biggest, most time-consuming parts of culling is looking at a series of photos. You got to find a series of similar photos and then finding the best one. And that could be based on sharpness or expression, things like that. That's really what takes the time. But what we can do is we can help you automatically group similar or duplicate photos together. And then we can also tell you if they're out of focus. We can tell you if people have closed eyes, if they blink in the photo as a warning. And then we can automate how you review those photos in Lightroom to help you pick the best. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to start off. I'm going to click this Analyze button right here. What Analyze is going to do is it's going to go through, it's going to virtually stack those duplicates together. And then in the future, again, this is a pre-release version, it'll also flag all those blurry photos and those blinks. So I'm just going to hit the Analyze button here. This is a smallish wedding to save us a little time. It's about 1,100 photos in this folder, and boom, there you go. It's gone through, it's analyzed all of them and built groups for me. You notice that the color and the rating has changed on these photos automatically. And that's controlled in the preferences. You can set up how you want to control your grouping. So if it has eyes closed, it gets 1 star, blur 2 star, duplicates 3 stars, selects, that's anything that is unique or that I've pushed out of a duplicate group, is a 4 star. You can set color ratings, you can set flags, however you want to work. So it doesn't really matter which flag color rating system you use, it'll adapt to it for you. Now, once it's done that grouping, I'm just going to click on the dupes button, and it's going to take me into the first set of duplicates. So you can see there's 96 sets of duplicate photos that are basically the same. So I can see both of those photos side by side, and it's using Lightroom Survey View to do this. So I can see both. Now, as great as Survey View is, the one thing you can't do is you can't zoom in on more than 1 photo at a time. They have a compare view, but if I've got 3 photos, I've got no way to zoom in and look at them. Well, right here in the Faces pane, I get a magnified version of the faces in each photo. So I can just click on each photo, and I can see that magnified, 1-to-1 version of that face. Now all I do is use the normal keyboard shortcuts or the things that I would do in Lightroom to pick my favorites. So in this case, I don't really like the one on the left. I'm going to leave it a 3 star, but the one on the right, that's one I want to keep. I want to promote it from a duplicate photo up to one of my select photos. The selects are the ones that I'm going to give to the client. So what do? I just simply hit the 4 button on my keyboard. That's now been moved from the dupes to the selects. And then I just hit the next button, and it takes me to the next set of duplicate photos. And all I do is just pick the ones that I like. I think on these, I'm going to like both. So I'm going to keep both of those. And on this set, I like the smile, so we'll keep that. And I kind of like where he's adjusting his tie. That one looks good. So we'll keep those 2 from that series. Now here we have a series of 6 photos. of the groomsmen. You can see it shows me all the faces within those groups. And as I move from photo to photo, I can look and compare those different faces to help me pick the best one, again, based on sharpness or based on expression. So yeah, kind of like the smiley one down here. Looks good. We'll keep the original pensive one, and we need one that's kind of a playful one. Let's see, which of the two playful ones do we like? Let's take a look at their faces up close so we can see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. How about this one?
Dan, that is such a great group shot feature. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Because with group shots, it's always going to come down to their facial expressions. And the fact that I know it's using AI, right? Using AI to pull up those and give you the one-to-one look, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's super handy. And again, it'll also warn you if they're blurry, or it'll warn you if their eyes are closed. And one of the tricky things, especially on a group shot like this, is, three of them could be in focus, but one of them could be a little out of focus. And you can't tell unless you zoom in. But there's not a good way to zoom in on multiple photos at once. It's just something that Lightroom hasn't really given us yet. So this kind of solves that problem. So it groups them together for you, automates the going through those different groups, and gives you the magnified faces to help you pick the best. So it cuts your culling time down significantly by doing this for you automatically. And then in the final version, there'll actually be a little button here for blurry and a little button here for eyes closed. We're not removing those photos. We're just kind of tagging them as a warning, because there's times where you might want a blurry photo. I'm shooting on the dance floor, I'm dragging the shutter. I want to have a long exposure. Things could get a little soft. That's the goal. Or a lot of times I'll have a bride look down. Her eyes are closed. She's looking at her bouquet or something like that. It's not a photo I want to get rid of. It's a photo I purposely had eyes closed on, but it's okay to warn me about it so that I can make the decision about which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to not show the client as well. So again, it's all about making repetitive tasks simpler and giving you guidance rather than changing the way you work. So rather than having to go out to a whole separate application, we're doing this all by driving Lightroom through Lightpanel.
Yeah, very slick.
Yeah. Pretty spiffy, huh?
That's pretty spiffy, yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way the culling process works. I would just simply arrow through the different groups, pick the ones that I want in each group, and voila, I've done that culling process. Next step would be doing some editing in the Develop tab. So I'm just going to go back to a regular grid view. We'll go to the Develop tab here, and we'll just use this photo, for example. So here in the Develop tab, we tackle several different problems. So the first one is setting tone and color for you automatically. So we all know that Lightroom has an auto button and an auto white balance button, but they're kind of trained on every kind of photo you can imagine. A lot of landscape photos, they tend to be a little on the contrasty side. They tend to be a little aggressive for a portrait. Well, we've built our models based solely for portrait and wedding photographers. So they're trained to be a little lower contrast, a little bit warmer. So all I would do is turn on the auto tone button, and it's going to calculate the settings for me automatically. Now, the cool thing about it, you notice here, it set all of the exposure, contrast, brightness, all the basic sliders in Lightroom for me. And that's at auto, but I can actually gang adjust these just by moving the auto tone slider back and forth, so I can tune it to my taste as well. So if I like it a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, I can adjust it. Beyond that, you can even control that in the preferences. So in the preferences on the Develop tab, I can override the amount of contrast, how much it's going to change the temperature, how much it's going to change the vibrance based on my personal tastes as well. You can do the same thing with white balance to adjust the white balance automatically. And then there's also the ability to do local adjustments and portrait retouching in here all at the same time as well. So let me go to a photo that's a little more interesting, and I'll show you kind of how these work. Let's scroll down here and grab kind of a more traditional bride and groom shot. Let's see that one. Let's go with this one. All right, so here we are on the Develop tab. I'll use Auto Tone to set the tone for me, so it brings back those highlights that were blown out. And then in the local adjustment section, let's say I want to darken my sky. Well, I just click on Darken Sky, and it's actually automating tools inside of Lightroom to make that adjustment for me automatically. And I can just use a single slider to control how much it's going to lighten or darken that sky. I didn't have to know to go click the selective tool, add a mask, pick a sky, what kind of adjustment do I want to make to it? It's all built in and a single slider to adjust it, making it a ton faster. Let's say I want to make the subject pop. I can click on pop subject, and now it will automatically find the bride and groom, the subject in the photo, and I can make them pop out a little bit more. Just like that. So a much faster way to do those most common local adjustments. But where I think where it really excels is with the portrait retouching. So let's go to another photo here. Let's see. Here's a good one. We'll use this one. I'm just going to turn on auto tone. There we go. So you got brought the contrast down a little bit more open and natural. And now here in the retouching section, you can see I can smooth skin, I can darken the eyebrows, I can brighten the eye whites, I can brighten the teeth, all the most common things that you do for portrait retouching. And I can power these Lightroom adjustments right here. And I've actually built a little preset I call a style, which will do this for me automatically. So I'm just going to turn portrait on here, and this will actually go through and do all that for me. Yeah, the white balance is a little warmer than I like. There we go. But you can see how it has added all of those adjustments. Let's zoom in so you can see it better. And now I have sliders to control that. So I can just adjust the amount of skin smoothing that Lightroom is adding for me. That looks good. I can adjust their eyebrows, make them a little darker. I can adjust the whitening of the eyes. It's always easy to overdo that one. There we go. That looks good. Make their irises a little sharper, a little more saturated, and control how much teeth whitening I want. There we go. Just like that. So let's take a look at the before and after here. I'm just going to take a look. There's before, that's out of the camera, and after using Lightpanel. So it fixed the tone and color for me, and I was able to do all my portrait retouching just by turning on a single option and then tuning it to my taste. Now, if I like that, I can save it as a preset, use it over and over again, or even better, I can use this sync to selected option. So I can select all the photos that are similar to it, press that sync to selected button, and it will use those same adjustments on all those photos, even up to the entire wedding. So I have a lot of people who will take the entire wedding, they'll turn auto tone and auto white balance on, hit sync, and it basically adjusts the tone and the color for every photo in a wedding. Much, much faster. And when I say adjust, it doesn't mean take the settings from the first photo and paste them onto all the other photos. That wouldn't be right. What it means is evaluate each photo independently and apply the right AI settings to them based on the amounts that I ask for. So if I want 100% of what the model thinks is right, or 50% of what I think the model is right. So it's not a wholesale just, copy and paste. It's not like a preset. Presets are great on the photo that they were invented for, but that's about it. Unfortunately, oftentimes they all require manual tuning. And to talk a little bit more about that, you'll notice there's a section down here called looks. So looks, think of them like intelligent presets. What they can do is stylize a photo or an entire wedding to match different styles that you might like. It can even learn your look as well. So these are all ones that I've been working on, but I can train it on my own look. So let's say I've edited a wedding in the past. I've got a specific look that I like. I can just say, learn my look for that wedding. And it will create a look that automatically adapts from photo to photo. So just to give you an idea, I'll click on a couple of these here. Think of them kind of like presets for now. So there's kind of a muted, cool version that I'm working on, or here's a different one. Or I got this little control in my way. If I want to give it more of a vintage film look, or maybe a little warmer. It's a little too warm. Like I said, I'm still working on these guys. Slightly warmer, little flatter look like that. So, yeah. So there you go. That, in a nutshell, is kind of what Lightpanel will do. But now I've only shown you two of the tabs so far. There's the culling tab and the develop tab. Coming soon will be the new jobs tab. That'll be coming in the first release after the 1.0 version. So I'm going to show you just a kind of a slide so you guys can get an idea of what this guy will look like here. Right here in the jobs tab, if I can get to it. There we go. In the jobs tab, you will have the concept of being able to create a job. And a job, it will track either by Lightroom catalog or by a folder, so that it will accommodate either way of working. And within a job, you can set whatever details you want. It's really a very flexible database that sits behind this. So you can put in whatever kind of job details you want for the type of job or the job status or client information. And then within a job, you can create as many orders as you want. And an order is really a list of products. So you set up your products So down here in the bottom, you see I've set certain products that I want to be able to sell. And then all I do is in Lightroom, I drag a photo on top of a product and it adds it to this order. So when I drag a photo onto 8x10, it's going to add an 8x10 to the order. I can then change the quantity. I can add notes to it. And then within each order, I can track its status. So this is great. Even if you're an individual, you'll still have the ability to know all of your jobs, where you're at on them, and be able to do your order sessions right through Lightroom without having to export to another application to do your ordering. You can do it all right here. You can then print those out or export them as a list that you can use inside of other apps for order fulfillment, for billing, things like that. So it's a very flexible way for you to keep track of your work right inside of Lightroom.
Yeah, that is way cool. Hey, we got a couple of things here, Dan. So Dan, sure. Let's see. This first question is from South Carolina, from SC, I'm guessing. Is Lightpanel only applicable to people shots, or will it work with other genres to help cull through?
So the answer is yes and no. So it is designed for high volume portrait, wedding, event, cruise photographers that shoot a lot of similar photos. All of the AI models are trained for that kind of content. That said, for doing things like grouping based on visual similarity and time, for doing this kind of culling work, it would probably work with any kind of photo, but keep in mind, it's only going to zoom in on faces for you. You know, if you were trying to use this for wildlife, you're not going to see bird faces, for example. We don't have a model that can do that, or pets or things like that. It's really targeted towards people for it. And the models for doing the automatic tone and color correction are really trained on people as well, because that's really where a lot of other apps struggle. You know, that things are just overly saturated, overly contrasty. They don't look good on people because they're trying a one-size-fits-all solution, where this is much more targeted towards portrait wedding.
Gotcha. Thanks very much, because that answers the second question as well. It answers them both. All right. Yeah. I've got a quick keyboard shortcut for you, and then we're going to look at a photographer here. So, I have two tips for you. I have this tip, and then I have a photography tip for you. So tip number one is just a keyboard shortcut that's really handy when you're working in effects. If you want to see a before and after, you can use the exact same keyboard shortcut that you use in Lightroom for a before and after. You can just press the / key. So I'm sorry, is that the forward slash? Is it?
I can never remember.
No, it's the backslash. I'm hitting the right key, but I think it's the / key, not the forward / key. All right, so that just gives you, it's the same keyboard shortcut that you use in Lightroom. So it's very, very easy to remember. So that's number one. I have a group portrait photography tip for you, because we were looking at group photos just a minute ago. One way to keep the whole, the bane of group photography is somebody's got their eyes closed. It happens in every shot. You go 1, 2, and somebody blinks right at the wrong time. Here's how to get around that. Have everybody close their eyes. Say, all right, everybody close your eyes, and you open them on 3. And you go, ready? 1, 2, 3, open them, and then click. Wait a second, and then click. You will never have anybody's, look, if they can't open their eyes on 3, there may be bigger problems than a group shot. So close your eyes and open them on count of 3. 1, 2, 3, click. Everyone's eyes will be open. All right, we have a photographer who we want to focus. We're going to, every episode, we're going to focus on another photographer. And this time, we're focusing on photographer Jim Choate. Now, Jim actually is an engineer, right? He's an engineer at ON1. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah. No, Jim has worked with us for, probably 10 years now. He's one of my photo buddies. You know, we go out and shoot together. He specializes in, I guess I would call it rural decay, probably is his genre. But it's a lot of farming, old cars, things like that. I love his perspective. It's almost got kind of a 70s, 80s postcard kind of feel to them. So, and he's just a really genuine guy, great photographer, and a great engineer. So I'm very honored to get to work with him and get to shoot with him. So.
There we go. Hey, he's doing something really hard to do, which is pull off the dead tree shot. But I think he did it. It's not easy. Ooh, I like this. Yeah. No, this guy's pretty good. Yeah.
Yep. No, he does really, really beautiful work. So.
And I guess he's going at somewhere out in the Midwest to do these?
So Jim lives in Washington.
Ooh,
so
I like
most of
that.
his work is in Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington,
Oh, okay.
all the way through, Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, things like that. So.
Well, this is very cool. And you can find him on Flickr. So does he have an Instagram account?
He probably does. I didn't look that one up. But
All right.
I bet if you search for Jim Choate, you'd probably find it.
Yeah,
so.
Chote, right? Chote, is that correct?
Choate, yep.
Choate, thank you. Choate. All right, well, Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into our very first episode of One on One. Look forward to seeing you next time. And if you watch any of my social media stuff, I'll let you know well in advance when the next episode's coming up. And I'll have another cool tip for you, and we'll have some more stuff to look at next time around. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.